Good morning, everybody. I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Oral Reports. You know, when I was little, I didn't just watch movies at my house. Whenever my parents had something important to attend to, like a meeting or something, they would usually leave me with either my grandmother or my aunts, Debbie and Karen. And there were times when they showed me some really cool movies. However, during the mid-90s, several months before my sister was born, my Aunt Debbie, along with my cousins, Nick, Katie, Shane, Ryan, and my Uncle Robert, introduced me to a movie which, believe it or not, was the very first Japanese animated movie that I ever watched, before I ever watched some stuff like Pokemon, Little Nemo, Unico, or anything like that. So, let's get started. Released in Japan on April 16th, 1988, the movie is My Neighbor Totoro. Now, on with the plot of the movie. This film follows two sisters, Satsuki and Mei, as they settle into an old country house with their father and wait for their mom to recover from an illness in an area hospital. As the sisters explore their new home, they encounter and befriend playful spirits in their house and in the nearby forest, most notably the massive cuddly creature known as Totoro. So, what do I think of the movie? Well, believe it or not, I loved it when I was a kid, and I still love it to this very day. But let's move on to Mustang notes. The movie was directed by the legendary Hayao Miyazaki, whom I've talked about in my blogs of Ponyo, Spirited Away, Castle in the Sky, and Porco Rosso. Art director Kazuo Oga was drawn to the movie when Miyazaki showed him an original image of Totoro standing in a Satoyama. The director challenged Oga to raise his standards, and Oga's experience with Totoro jump-started the artist's career. Oga and Miyazaki debated the palette of the film, where he was seeking to paint black soil from Akita Prefecture, and Miyazaki preferred the color of red soil from the Kanto region. Not to be confused with Pokemon, though. The ultimate product was described by Studio Ghibli producer Toshio Tezuki, where he described it to be, well, nature painted with translucent colors. Oga's work on Totoro led to his continued involvement with Studio Ghibli. The studio assigned jobs to Oga that would play to his strengths, and Oga's style became a trademark style of Studio Ghibli. In several of Miyazaki's initial conceptual watercolors, as well as on the theatrical release poster and on later home video releases, only one young girl is depicted, rather than two sisters. According to Miyazaki, if she was a little girl who plays in the yard, she wouldn't be meeting her father at a bus stop. So they had to come up with two girls instead, and that was very difficult for them. The opening sequence of the movie was not storyboarded, Miyazaki said. The sequence was determined through permutations and combinations determined by the timesheets. Each element was made individually and combined in the timesheets. And, of course, the ending sequence depicts the mother's return home and the signs of her return to good health by playing with Satsuki and Mei outside in their yard. The storyboard depicts the town of Matsuko as the setting, with the year being 1955. The year when my father was born, and the year when Disneyland opened. Miyazaki stated that it was not exact, and the film worked on a setting in the recent past. The film was originally set to be an hour long, but throughout the process, it grew to respond to the social context, including, well, the reason for the movie and the father's occupation. Miyazaki has said that Totoro is not a spirit. He's only an animal that lives on acorns. He's supposedly the forest keeper, but that's only a half-baked idea, a rough, well, approximation. And the character of Mei was modeled on Miyazaki's niece. Fun fact, the movie won the Animage Anime Grand Prix prize and the Mainichi Film Award and Kanema Junpo Award for Best Film in 1988. It also received the special award at the Blue Ribbon Awards during the same year. In 1989, Streamline Pictures produced an exclusive dub for use on trans-Pacific flights by Japanese airlines. Troma Films, under their 50th Street Films banner, distributed the dub of the movie, co-produced by Jerry Beck. This dub was released to the US theaters in 1993. On VHS and Laserdiscs in the US by Fox Video in 1994, and on DVD in 2002. However, the rights to this dub expired in 2004, so it was re-released by Walt Disney Home Entertainment on March 7, 2006, with a new dub cast. And in my opinion, I think the Disney dub is a lot better than the one that I saw back in 1994. And in the years after its release, Totoro has amassed a worldwide cult following, and of course, the movie and its titular character have become cultural icons. As for the animation, well, in my eyes, the animation is awesome, due to this being from Studio Ghibli and all. And with this movie being the first film that I ever watched from their library, I really love how the scenery looks around the Kasube house. Plus, I think the inside of the house looks really nice, even though nowadays the soot spirits during the beginning make me think of Kamaji's assistants from Spirited Away. Plus, I think the camper tree where Totoro lives looks very mysterious. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is where Satsuki and Mei witness and join Totoro and his colleagues as they engage in a ceremonial dance around the planted seeds in their garden. Plus, I think a few other scenes in the movie can be very playful and funny, but later, the movie becomes very serious when Mei tries to run off to the hospital by herself. Also, I do like the opening and closing credits songs like Hey Let's Go and Totoro. And now let's move on to the cast. And just to let you know, we'll be going over the 2005 Disney dub since it's been far too long for me to remember the Fox dub. Our main characters, Satsuki and Mei Kusakabe, are voiced by Dakota and Elle Fanning. To me, these two sisters are really playful, loud, and thick as thieves throughout most of the movie, and I can't believe how much the Fanning sisters have grown up since this movie. However, sometimes Satsuki can be very irritable towards her sister Mei, and she likes to think of herself as a grown-up, and as well as caring for her sister. She's also very lively, kind, and responsible overall. As for Mei, well, aside from being, well, as lively as Satsuki, she's also incredibly active, as well as cute, stubborn, caring, and curious. Also, I thought it was very sweet of Mei to get her mother a hedge of corn, but It was very, very irresponsible of her to run off like that. Satsuki and Mei's dad, Tetsuo, is voiced by Tim Daly. Best known as Clark Kent, aka Superman, from Superman the Animated Series, and he got to be Dr. Jax from Dr. Jekyll and Ms. Hyde. Tetsuo works as a college professor teaching archaeology. In my opinion, I think Tetsuo is a very good father, and he does his best to keep Mei and Satsuki happy when their mother is in the hospital. He believes in the imagination of his daughters, and he understands their belief in Totoro. Plus, he is kind and patient. Next we have Satsuki and Mei's mother, Yasuko, voiced by Lea Salona. Best known as the singing voices for Princess Jasmine from Aladdin and Mulan. Throughout the movie, Yasuko is in the hospital due to her suffering from tuberculosis, and it is assumed that her sickness could be the reason why she and her family moved to the countryside. She was admitted to the local hospital, which offered the best care for the illness, and the family decided that it would be best for her to recuperate in a more fresh and sunny environment. In my opinion, I think Yasuko seems like a sweet and caring mother. Next we come to our title character, Totoro, voiced by the legendary Frank Welker. This character is said to be the king of the forest who lives in a large camphor tree, and he can only be seen by children. When I first saw this movie when I was about 4 years old, Totoro did scare me due to his roar. But now that I'm older, I find Totoro to be a very gentle and helpful character. Plus, aside from the scene where Totoro and his colleagues help the girl's garden grow, I think the part where he sleeps makes him look a bit like Snorlax. No offense, big guy. And I like that Totoro is the mascot for Studio Ghibli, and I do like his cameos in such films like Kiki's Delivery Service and Toy Story 3. Our next character is Granny, voiced by Pat Carroll, aka Ursula and Morgana from the first two Little Mermaid movies. And she got to be in the 2007 Nancy Drew movie. To me, Granny is a kind elderly woman who cares for every one of her neighbors. And I like the scene where she helps the Kusakabe family settle into their new home. And when she rounds up the villagers to help look for Mei after she runs away. Granny's grandson, Kanta, is voiced by Paul Butcher, who has done various voices on Avatar: The Last Airbender. In my eyes, Kanta is pretty shy, but he is very responsible when feeding the animals on his farm before going to school. However, sometimes Kanta can be very stubborn when he and the girls don't get along. But despite that, Kanta has done a series of kind things, like giving his umbrella to the girls, and when he joins in the search for Mei. Last but not least, we have the Cat Bus, also voiced by Frank Welker. This character is a transportation animal who seems to be a very close friend of Totoro's. When I first saw this when I was 4 years old, I thought it looked like the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland due to its smile. Plus, while this cat bus doesn't seem to have a big role in the movie, I do like the scene where it takes Satsuki to find Mei, and when it takes the girls to the hospital to drop the corn off for their mother. Other voice actors in the movie include Ashley Rose Orr, Kat Susie, Peter Renaday, Trez McNeil, Lucy Taylor, and Bridget Hoffman. Now that's pretty cool. And now let's move on to my final words. Overall, My Neighbor Totoro was a wonderful movie, and I'm happy that this was the very first Japanese animated movie that I ever watched. It has wonderful animation, the environments are gorgeous, and the two songs that play during the opening and closing credits are fun to listen to. Plus, the main characters, Satsuki and Mei, are very playful. Granny is a really caring neighbor character. Kanta may be stubborn, but an okay character nonetheless. And Totoro was a great supporting character. And while the Fox dub may have been okay, I think Disney did a better job with the English dubbing for the movie. So, if you want to introduce your kids to Hayao Miyazaki or Studio Ghibli, then be sure to start with this film. As for my rating, I'll give Totoro an 89% out of 100. Well, that's all for now, viewers. Be sure to join me for my next blog as we look at a movie where the Muppets began. Mustang Power. Oh, and to all my Japanese watchers out there, sayonara!